Well, hey there, everybody. Thanks for opening up this video. As many of you know, we recently got back from a trip to Kisumu, Kenya, where we were there on a mission trip helping with Point of Grace Academy and medical mission teams. And so, what we're going to do is we are going to bring you through a little bit of a slideshow of some pictures that we took while we were there, just as a way of saying thank you for allowing us to do this. Many of you donated financially in order to get us there, and we thank you very much for that. We're going to show you a little bit of what we were doing and how you can continue to pray for the people of Point of Grace and the people of Kenya all together. And so, what we're going to do is I'm going to share some of my pictures. So, I'm going to share my screen here and then we'll get into that. So, sharing my screen now and now sharing the Point of Grace Academy logo. So this was the bus actually that picked us up when we got to Kisumu. So we had to take a flight from Atlanta, then go into Amsterdam. Each of those were 8-hour flights. Once we landed in Nairobi, that was our second 8-hour flight. Then we spent the night and took another flight from Nairobi to Kisumu, which is completely on the other side of the country. And then once we landed in Kisumu, we had to take about a 45-minute drive in a bus from Kisumu to Point of Grace. Point of Grace is sort of out in the sticks, if you will. And so it was another 45 minutes on a very bumpy, flooded road because there had been a lot of flooding in Kenya. And so the first thing that we did that we got there when we were able to take a tour of Point of Grace Academy. You can't actually see the school very well in this picture, but what you can see is some of our team. And so you'll maybe notice Scott and Andrew there. This is Mr. Richard. He is the headmaster for the school and just an impressive man all in all. While we were there, we were also traveling with you might not recognize these folks, but these folks are mostly some pharmacy students from FAMU, from Florida A&M University, that joined us on this trip, and so they were able to help us out as we were bringing medical relief and those kind of things to the area and to the school. So this is a picture of one of the classrooms. I forget which classroom this was, but you can see the kids that are here. There's about 850 kids at Point of Grace, the school, and it ranges from kindergarten all the way up to what we would call a senior in high school. They call it Form 4, and so all of these kids are studying. Most of these children are going to be boarding students, and so they're going to spend their entire week at least at Point of Grace, many of them spending even more than that, only going home for certain holidays. Quite a few of them are even sort of without much family support. And so this is almost like a orphanage kind of situation for some of these students where they have been taken in when their families couldn't take care of them. Some of them have some pretty extreme needs when it comes to their medical care and things like that. And so it's a great mission in order to get these children educated, but also to get them the support that they would not otherwise have. This is the new girls' dormitory. Dormitory that's being put up. You'll see the OSHA approved scaffolding there, and so they are putting this up, and this is going to house just a lot of different students. One of the things that we do when we go over is that we always take at least one. This time we took two extra bags along with us. Those extra bags were not, they didn't carry our things, but what we did was we put a lot of over the counter drugs and things like that that the people in Kisumu might need, the people of Point of Grace might need. And so, what you see in front of you here is we are unloading all of that out of our bags and getting it organized so that we can take it over to the school and over to the clinic so that then we can use those things in order to in order to hand out to different people there. This is another picture of that. You can kind of get a sense of how much stuff is there. That's we had 17 people, I believe, that were with us on the trip, and each one of those people had at least one extra bag that was filled with stuff. So you can start to understand how much relief we're bringing, because you can't just go down to a CVS when you are in this area in Kisumu. Here's another one of those pictures. And then the next day we had clinic. So this is what clinic looks like. You can see the purple and blue tent in the background here. This purple and blue tent is where people are. This is the waiting room. And then when people come up, they come up and they're talking to the clinicians. And then we have one of our pharmacy students here, and so this is a mother and a child, and they're discussing something that's going on with that child. And we've got a few more pictures of how this happens. Here we have two of our other teammates. These are our two nurse practitioners who were in Seattle and decided to come along with us, and so they were a part of the team with us. You'll notice also here, this is you'll get a better picture of him later, but this is the lead pastor at Point of Grace Academy. This is Pastor Edwin, and Pastor Edwin is translating for the nurse practitioners, because most of these children, at least at this point in the trip, were only able to speak their native tongue, which was called Luo. Some of them could speak Swahili, which is much more the national language, and maybe a few words in English. But by the time that most of these students get all the way up to their senior year in high school, they're able to speak usually their native language, their tribal language, as well as Swahili and English, and that's a part of their education process. So here you might see a familiar face. We've got Dr. Joel Holcomb, who is leading person as they're talking about something health related there. Here we've got another angle on that. You'll see that we have Dr. Joel here. We have FAMU pharmacy student here. This is an interpreter, and this is the actual patient that they were talking to. Here we've got an elderly woman who was brought in with a cane. You can see Scott here. He was holding that cane, and holding the cane that she came in with. They were able to give her a new metal cane that should work out much better for her. This here is Joe. Joe comes from New Jersey. He was joining us on the trip as well. He's a respiratory therapist there in New Jersey, and so he joined us for this trip also. Here's another picture of that woman with the cane. You can see the kind of back of of Pastor Dennis. Pastor Dennis was the kind of reason that he and his wife Lorna really kind of made Point of Grace happen, and started to build it many years ago. As they were leaving Nairobi, they came out here. They found a plot of land, and they've really developed this from something that was just really kind of the sticks and sort of an overgrown area, and developed this compound into being something that is doing so many great things. Here we've got Scott and Andrew posing with their canes that they don't need. Um, Scott and Andrew and I, not being medical people, we kind of went around some different places than some of the medical people did. One of those places was we started to help out with some of the education things that were happening at Point of Grace. And so here we're sitting in the back of a computer class that we will see in just a moment here, that Andrew is going to start teaching at. So Andrew was able to teach a lesson, and here's Scott and Andrew as we're kind of getting a sense of what's happening. And then they had Andrew get up front, and I was still sitting in the back with this little girl. Her name is Gloria, and Gloria and I sat in the back and we were listening. She was taking excellent notes, by the way. There's Andrew again. He's teaching. This is probably a great action shot of Andrew teaching, and he's teaching them about printers and output devices. And so it's interesting. This was a computer class, but these students at this level were not, they didn't have any computers themselves to work with. Once they get a little bit older, they will have an opportunity to work on some Chromebooks, but at this level, they're just kind of learning from afar. And so they're you can see they're looking at what Andrew is holding up there in holding up that printer. And so Andrew is continuing to teach here. One of the days we were able actually to go down to Lake Victoria. The school and the compound is built on Lake Victoria, which is the second largest lake in the world. And so there's a fishing trade that comes up around that, and so these are some of the fishing boats that are there. They fish for mainly tilapia while they're there, and you'll see that some of the boats here. I think we can zoom in. You see this that says "Prayer is the key to success." You have a very pretty much a Christian area in Kenya, and so the Kenyan people largely are Christian. I believe the official number is around 80%, a little bit more than that, are Christian in the nation of Kenya. And yet, at the same time, a lot of times that doesn't mean that they're necessarily churched at a place that has Orthodox theology. There's a lot of places that are really just kind of heretical. Things like they don't believe that Jesus is truly God and things like that. So even though you'll see something like the prayer is the key to success, you also understand that a lot of the people in Kenya need a little bit of clarity about who our God is and how we talk about him. Here we have some of the children that are gathering together. This was for, this is largely the primary grades, and they were gathering together in order to do a little bit of singing and to do a little bit of talking. And so hopefully this audio is coming through. The next day, Scott and Andrew went and they actually taught a course that was called CRE, Christian Religious Education. And this is actually, it sounds strange to us as Americans, but this was a class that was required by the nation of Kenya, that the people that were there needed to learn about Christian religious education. And so that was a part of the curriculum that they needed to learn. And so Scott and Andrew here are preaching or teaching rather about the Sermon on the Plain from Luke, and they're doing that in a very academic sense here, as opposed to kind of a pastoral sense. And so here we've got Scott and Andrew teaching a little bit more, and they're going through the different things that you find there in the Sermon on the Plain. And here they are gathered together with all of the students. You'll notice that there is a uniform for the students that are here, and that's one of the things that they take a lot of pride in. They do their own laundry because most of them, again, are living there, and it's really kind of a neat thing. Um, and so after that, we were actually able to go with Pastor Edwin. This is Pastor Edwin here. He again is the lead pastor. And we were able to do a few home visits. And so this woman in the pink shirt, she's actually 92 years old, which is very unheard of. She would be considered very old in Kenyan standards around this time. And so we were able to visit with her inside of her home. Here you can see the inside is this kind of mud inside wall, and that's the same as on the outside wall. You can see even the rafters and the tin roof there, and so you kind of get a sense of how people live in their homes, and we were able to get a sense of that as well. Visiting, her name was Jennifer, and she complained significantly about having pain throughout her joints. We're actually able to bring her some medicine in order to allow that to heal a little bit. Her faith was very strong. Pastor Edwin was able to bring her communion. This was a great visit. This was another woman that we visited while we were there. One of the things that we didn't realize while until this point that we were starting to visit people in their homes was that polygamy was such a rampant thing in the nation of Kenya. So this woman, I believe, was the third wife out of possibly five, I think. And so as we start to kind of grapple with a different culture, you have to start to grapple with different things. And one of the things that the church was kind of working through was that it was very common for people to be in these polygamous relationships and how to work that out while they were preaching the gospel to them. And so, kind of working out some of those family dynamics. This is a picture. We were actually kind of walking through this. You can see Lake Victoria out in the background, but this gives you a sense of just kind of how remote the area was. And so you see the pictures from around the school, and you think that, oh, okay, well, that looks like a pretty normal compound. But we're walking through some pretty significant sticks and bush here. Here we're walking actually through a little bit of a cornfield as we're going and we're visiting people, and Pastor Edwin is leading the way for us. Here we're back in the chapel. This is a cross that they have in the chapel here, and then after that we left and we went and we were talking to, these were the upper level high school students. We were talking to them about God and about Jesus and about what it is that we believe. And so Scott and Andrew were able to do that. Here we have a sort of tribal dance, a native dance that they were actually preparing for a competition that they were going to compete against other schools in the area with this dance and to show how well they could dance. And apparently they do fairly well. Here we are back at the clinic on another day. We've got a whole bunch of little kids here that are here, and they're doing all sorts of great stuff and singing and doing all sorts of really great stuff. You see some of our folks here again. This is one of our FAMU students who is taking some vital information from this kid as he's getting checked out, and so these are some kids that are doing a little bit of an art thing that we were able to bring. This little girl, she was a little bit developmentally delayed, but in this picture probably doesn't show it real well, but she was absolutely just very loving and would give everybody hugs. It was kind of a great thing. Here we are with a few more pictures of what the clinic looks like, and as people are being seen in the clinic, and all of the different people that are a part of this. This is in the pharmacy in the clinic itself. So there's a separate building for the clinic. This has been recently built, and that building actually allows for continuous care to be there for people. So you see some of our FAMU pharmacy students, as well as Scarlett there in the background. So here's Scarlett turning around and taking a picture with them. And so this is the front reception area to that clinic, and some kids that are waiting to be seen. They've got I think these two kids have malaria, which is a very common problem for the kids that are here at Point of Grace and in this area. And this is another picture of the outside of the clinic. And so here we've got some kids that are waving, and a little bit more of the clinic as we're taking those pictures. Here's some more of that. I think I joked before, OSHA approved scaffolding as they were putting this up. That looks pretty precarious to me, but they were able to build this building, and so yeah, God bless them. Here we have Scott and Andrew and myself. We were teaching a confirmation class for the students, and so we're going through the Ten Commandments, just kind of an overview of the Ten Commandments for them as we were doing this. And so here's Andrew and Scott leading some more of that. Here's a much better picture of Pastor Edwin. Pastor Edwin talking about how all of the commandments bring us back to Christ. And so one of the things that we were able to do was we were able to provide a meal for the students that were at Point of Grace, the students that stay throughout, the boarding students. And so you get a sense of how much food it takes to feed these kids when you've got all of that food that's right there. And here they are lining up to get ready to pray, and then be invited in and to be fed. And so you can see this meal was special for them for a couple of reasons. First of all, they were able to get meat, which is something that they only get about once a month. And then on top of that, they were able to get sodas. And sodas are kind of a once in a blue moon kind of thing. Maybe they might get sodas 4 times a year. And so this was a really big treat for them to be able to have this. And so we were able, as a team, to be able to serve it to them. And so like you can see us with plates, and we are serving that to the students that are there. Later on that night, we gathered together and we did this thing that was called Christian Union. And Christian Union was sort of like youth group for the students, and it started off with people just getting in front of everyone and singing. And I thought, wow, how amazing that you would have somebody that would be willing to get in front of all of their peers and to sing a song about Jesus here. Um, we actually worship together, and this is Sunday morning when we worship together. You have a great picture here from just beside the pulpit where I was. I was actually preaching that Sunday. And so you get a sense of how many people it is that worship together here on a Sunday morning. This is just for the students. The people in the front row are from our team, but everybody else here is a student. And so Scott and Andrew were actually able to help out. They were the readers. You'll see Pastor Edwin there over on the left, and he was the celebrant, and I was preaching. And so here's a picture of all of us with Pastor Meeker there on the left. He actually got to take the Sunday off because we were there helping out, and so that was a very good thing. And this is us. And at the end of the trip, we're leaving in order to, we were actually able to be a part of a safari. And so this is us leaving for that, and us while we're on that. And that is the end of our slideshow. So thanks so much for just kind of watching along with us. We hope that this has given you kind of a little bit of a sense of what we were doing while we're in Kenya, and we hope that it is something that maybe inspires you to think maybe you want to go the next time that we go. And if you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to reach out to me, and we'll be happy to tell you more about what we were doing while we were there. Hope this has been edifying for you and that it has caused you to give God thanks for what He's doing in Kenya, as well as to continue to pray that He would continue to do what He has been doing in Kenya. Thanks so much. God's blessings. Bye bye.